Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of The Work. Man, it's great to have you here with me today. I really hope you're doing well. I hope you're loving life. And if not, then let's get to work. Today, I'm going to be diving deep into the way of flow, which is my framework for an effortless path to manifesting that I've created through many, many years of trial and error with goal setting and manifesting, while also combining all of the knowledge I've acquired through loads of different courses and books and really just doing this deep work on myself. It's a path based upon deeply spiritual principles with modern manifesting techniques. The way of flow is a framework that I am extremely proud of, and I'm very, very excited to share it with you all today. Now, creating this method has not been all sunshine and rainbows. Essentially, I came to a point 2 to 3 years ago where I was just sick and tired of the traditional methods of goal setting as they wouldn't work for me. In the process of achieving my goals, I found myself unhappy way more often than I was happy. I was worried and doubtful, and it always felt like a struggle. And then I began to understand, this insanity of goal setting and how our desires cause us way more pain than they do fulfillment. And how even once I would achieve my goal or I would acquire the thing that I wanted, my happiness and fulfillment was brief and would be gone before I knew it. Not to mention the process leading up to achieving the goal was filled with a lot of struggle, due to many false beliefs that I held about success and hard work. So not only would I struggle tremendously in the process of achieving my goal, once I achieved it, any happiness and fulfillment that it brought me would be gone in hours or days. So after doing this over and over and over again, I began to think there must be a better way. A way in which I can be happy and at peace throughout the entire process. So today's episode branches off of last week's episode, which was titled, Why You'll Never Be Happy Chasing Goals. I would highly recommend listening to that episode first, if you haven't already, because today's episode will sink in much deeper if you've already listened to last week's. I'll give you a brief recap of the episode before we get started. So, in last week's episode, I dive deep into this paradox of goal setting and desires in general. How from the moment that we have a desire, it instantly makes us unhappy. Whether it's the fear of not getting the thing we want, the process and mindset we have while trying to achieve it, believing that the path to our goal must be filled with struggle and difficulties, or most importantly, the fact that deep down, we believe that this thing will truly give us lasting happiness. We do not believe that we can be happy right now in the present moment until we achieve this goal or get this thing that we want sometime in the future. By thinking this way, it immediately pulls us out of the present moment. You attach yourself to this goal, and by doing so, you somehow think it will bring you lasting happiness in the future. Your mind is projecting a false reality, which tricks you into believing that your happiness and fulfillment is somewhere out there rather than within you right now in the present moment. I go into all of this in much, much more detail in last week's episode, so please, if you haven't listened to it, go back right now and do that, as it will make today's episode far more powerful for you. In today's episode, I am going to deep dive into the way of flow, and I will break down steps 1 to 4 for you, and then next week in part 2 I'll finish off steps 5 through 7. Otherwise, if I did all 7 today, it's just way too much info to digest in one sitting. So hopefully you'll leave these next 2 episodes feeling inspired, excited, and energized, knowing that you now have a method to achieving your goals that allows you to keep your peace and happiness throughout the process. So what's so beautiful about the way of flow is that the emphasis of the method is on cultivating your sense of peace and joy right now in your everyday life, to the point to where your goals and desires just become a natural byproduct of the way you're living. It truly becomes effortless in the sense that your actions are not filled with struggle, resistance, and force. Your goals are not something to strive for way out there. So rather than you chasing them, it feels as if they're coming to you, and with far more ease and enjoyment in the process. Now, it's important to understand that although there are 7 steps, this is not a rigid, set-in-stone framework. It's very fluid, and the steps are interchangeable and can be used at different times throughout the process. The title of this framework is inspired by the ancient Chinese philosophy of Taoism. And there are many principles from Taoism that are incorporated throughout this method. Taoism is all about flowing with the river of life as opposed to forcing and resisting it. In Taoism, the Tao is what's translated as the way. And the way can be seen as essentially another way of saying the universe, the divine, God. Essentially it's a higher power that gives life and flow to all that is. Also, I'm excited to share that I've created a free PDF guide with reflection questions about the way of flow. So the link is in the show notes for you to download it, and it will make this process of understanding the way of flow much easier for you, and it allows you to answer the questions. I've got them all there on the guide, so you don't have to be writing down the questions and everything as I go through them in this episode. Again, the link for the free PDF is in the show notes, so go download it before I proceed with the steps. Anyways, let's dive into the way of flow. Step 1 is to clarify what you truly desire. Without placing any limits on yourself and absolutely anything is possible, what do you want? Without worrying about what anyone would think or whether that thing that you want is good or bad, just drop all the nonsense and ask yourself, what do I truly desire? I want you to dream big. No limits. Anything is possible. What do you want? Now, this may be the first time in your life that you've truly sat down to think about what you actually want your life to look like. Many of us have been told what we should and shouldn't want, can and can't have our entire lives by society, our friends, our family, and the world that we live in. We've been conditioned to believe that our life should look a certain way, and that dreaming big is for kids and crazy people. So, what is it that you want? Is it to be earning $200,000 per year, to have time to spend with your family and your loved ones, to start your own thriving and successful business, to regain your health, to run a marathon, to live a life of freedom? Freedom to make, a shitload of money, doing something that you love, working when you want, wherever you want, with whoever you want, to travel around the world without the stress of money, to have a beautiful house with a pool surrounded by nature, to live in a different country, to not have to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week at a job that you hate. What do you want? Seriously, dream frickin' big. You don't have to feel bad about dreaming big and wanting things. These wants are pointing you in the direction your life is meant to go, and they are guiding you to your life's purpose. It doesn't matter what it is that you want. The universe has placed this desire in your mind because it is meant for you. It is already yours. So drop any and all of the guilt that you may be feeling and accept that this thing you want is already yours. The idea here is to get specific on what you truly want your life to look like. Or if it's hard to know exactly what you want, maybe you know the feelings you would like to be feeling throughout the day. Or maybe you know what you don't want. And then you can look at the opposites and figure out what you want. So how do you want to feel? Is it inspired, energized, happy, loving, gracious, aligned, relaxed? Write those down if it's easier. So start by writing out a list of everything that you want, as many things that you can think of. Big, small. Typically, the more things you write down, the deeper you get in understanding what it is that you truly want. Once you are finished, you can go through your list and begin to pick out any common themes that you notice. And then you can ask yourself, what is the one goal or the one desire that if I attain it would have the biggest impact on my life and will take care of all the other goals? I'll give you an example from my life. So after writing all of my desires down, I noticed that a common theme for me was freedom. Freedom to work whenever and wherever I want. To work 2 to 3 hours a day and spend the rest of my day with my wife and my daughter, rather than going to a job 5 days a week. I wanted to live life on my terms. Travel whenever I want, relax whenever I want, and to be deeply in love and passionate about the thing that I do. And most importantly, to just enjoy life. So after noticing this common theme of freedom, I realized that the one goal that would give me all of that was having a successful coaching business. So hopefully, this gives you a better understanding of what I mean by finding a common theme and figuring out that one goal that would change everything. So once you determine what that big goal or that desire is, there's 2 things to keep in mind. The first is that understanding that the only reason you want this thing is because deep down you believe that it will make you happy and fulfilled. Sorry to be a downer, but it's true. And by believing this lie, you are projecting your happiness into the future. Your attachment to this goal is what will cause your unhappiness right now in the present moment. By understanding this very early on in the process, you can save yourself so much time and suffering. The key is to view your goal with non-attachment, because when you are attached to your goal, you constantly have the fear that you won't get it. You obsess over the goal as if it's going to be your savior, which it's not. So by not being attached to the fruits of your labor or to the results of your actions become pure and are not tainted with the negative energies that you are carrying. The more you view your goal as your savior, the more it will cause you pain in the process, and pain once you eventually achieve it and realize that it did not give you the fulfillment that you projected onto it. Now, this is only step 1 for a reason, because just knowing what you want isn't enough. You have to shift into alignment with it. That's where step 2 comes in. So step 2, embody the feelings of your desire now. Your desires don't show up in your life for the sole reason that you wanted them. If that was the case, everyone would be a millionaire, they'd be blissfully happy and have everything they ever wanted, which definitely isn't the case. Because wanting in itself is a negative energy and actually repels the thing that you want from ever finding its way to you. A classic example of this is boy meets girl, falls in love with the girl, is head over heels for her. She wants nothing to do with him until eventually he just lets her go. He completely moves on because he realized he could be happy without her. And at that very moment that he does, she likes him. She could feel the neediness and the wanting and was repelled by it. As soon as he moved on, the negative energy of that neediness was gone. And he ends up with the girl after all. It's the same thing with anything that you want. Your wanting repels the very thing that you want from ever getting it. This may sound confusing, but please don't get too hung up on it. Rather, the question you can ask yourself is, who do I need to become in order to attain my goal or desire? Or who would I be if this thing was already mine? What feelings would I be feeling? How would I act? How would I show up in my life? How would I react to seemingly negative situations? Am I showing up with love for myself and confidence in my abilities? Or am I telling myself how much I suck and I will never achieve my goal? Am I embodying the mindset of someone who has already achieved my goal? Am I grateful to have this thing in my life, or am I fearful that I will never get it? Am I focused solely on living in the present moment and being at one with my actions? Or am I worrying about the results? The answer to these questions makes all the difference. So ask yourself these 3 questions. What feelings would I be feeling if this thing was already mine? How would I act? And how would I show up in my life? I guarantee that the person you are right now is showing up very different than the person who has already achieved the goal or has that thing you want. It is your being, your energy that brings your goals and desires into your life, who you're showing up as every day. So who are you currently being, and who do you need to become? The circumstances, situations, and things currently in your life are a reflection of who you are, not what you do. So by making shifts internally, your world changes externally. Always start within. By doing this, you'll stop forcing actions and you'll be able to relax into actions that arise naturally. You begin to take inspired or aligned action instead of forced and fearful action. Inspired action flows effortlessly as there's no resistance or forcing. This is how you begin to flow with the river of life. And once you are flowing with the river, it'll give you everything that you need. Step 3, follow the natural flow. Focus on the process, not the results. This can be a very difficult step in the beginning, especially if all of this is new to you. From the time we were born, we've been conditioned by our culture and society to believe that achieving success is hard, that it takes a lot of effort, and it requires constant, forceful discipline. This is true if you are completely out of alignment and are focused on the results of your actions. The flow of life requires you to be fully present with what is right now, not what may or may not happen in the future, because focusing on what may or may not happen in the future is the cause of your fear, worry, and anxiety. This process will require you to do a lot of deconditioning and letting go of old patterns and beliefs. We'll get into that much more in step 4. Another aspect of being in the flow of life is being open to whatever life throws at you. So often when we have a goal, we write out the exact steps that we will take to achieve it, and then we rigidly follow that plan without veering off course. 100% of the time, the thing we desire will come to us in a way which we could never have imagined. So if you're extremely rigid and expect your goal to only come to you in one specific way, you'll miss out on every single opportunity the universe is trying to give you. I repeat, your goal or desire will not come to you in the way that you imagine it will. Following your steps exactly and never changing directions is a great way to put yourself through a lot more struggle than necessary. If things start to become a struggle and you're feeling a lot of resistance, just pause, take a step back, and ask yourself, where am I forcing instead of allowing? Am I sticking too rigidly to how I believe that my desires will come to me? Am I focusing on the results rather than the task at hand? As humans, we tend to make things far more difficult than we need. Think of the water in a stream. It always finds the path of least resistance, even though it's constantly changing courses. You may need to switch gears many times on your path to your desire. The universe works in very mysterious ways. Trust, surrender, and when inspiration strikes, take action. This is what is meant by inspired or aligned action. You have a thought or an idea and you act on it. Focusing solely on that action, not the next one. Often we don't know where it's going to lead us, but it arrives, so we act, and then next thing we know, boom, an opportunity presents itself. For instance, while I am writing and recording this show, I'm not wondering and stressing over how many people are going to watch it, how many people are going to listen. I am focused solely on the task at hand, which is creating this episode. I'm putting everything into it right now. Once I finish recording and I publish it for the world to see, I surrender all outcomes and results to the universe because it's out of my control anyways. Why stress over them? Why worry? The universe wants to give you the thing you desire. You just need to get out of the way. As you're flowing with life rather than against it, you'll find that many unexpected opportunities, synchronicities, and seeming coincidences find their way to you. The path truly becomes effortless. When I say effortless, I mean without resistance. Although you put in effort, that effort carries far more power within it, and it doesn't feel like effort because you are in flow. This leads me to step number 4, which is to release limiting thoughts and beliefs through awareness, observation, and forgiveness. The ego, or your mind, loves to limit you. It's your biggest doubter, and an important idea to understand is that any thought or belief that limits you from your highest potential or limits you from attaining the thing that you desire is bullshit. And it is a lie created by your mind to keep you where you are, to keep you small and powerless. Almost every limiting thought and belief you have is typically rooted somewhere in the past. Due to some past experience you had, the ego has now tricked you into believing that you are limited. Your mind plays stories and narratives from the past on repeat constantly. I am not good enough. I am not worthy of this thing. What if I fail again? Who am I kidding? I can never achieve this. What if they all realize that I'm an imposter and shouldn't be here? The amount and types of limiting thoughts and beliefs we have goes on and on and on. But remember, they are not you. One of the biggest limiting beliefs I've noticed that people carry with them, and one that I personally struggled with for a very long time, is this limiting belief of unworthiness. Not believing that you are worthy of living a happy, beautiful life filled with success and love. All feelings and beliefs of unworthiness, and almost any limiting belief in general, comes from past experiences. Often from the mistakes you've made and the lies you were told by society, your parents, loved ones, friends, peers, teachers, and so on. Now, if you don't already know this, then listen up. You are absolutely worthy of a beautiful, happy life filled with love, success, and joy. Not because of anything that you have or you haven't done in the past, but rather because you are worthy because you're worthy. End of story. There is no need for any other reason. You are worthy because you were born on this planet. I don't care what happened in your past. You are worthy. So why is it so important for you to overcome these limiting beliefs? Because if you don't, they'll continue to run your life. You unconsciously make decisions and act based off of those beliefs, which then reinforces these beliefs in your mind to be true because you keep having the same experiences. It's honestly an endless cycle, and if you don't break it, it'll continue to run your life and rob you of all the success and happiness that you deserve. Remember, your inner world creates your outer world. By addressing the beliefs you hold within, your world changes without. So how can you overcome these beliefs? The first step is awareness. Noticing these thoughts and beliefs when they come up. Likely they've been running your life unconsciously, running through your mind without you noticing. So in order to address them, you need to first become aware of them. Awareness in itself is extremely powerful. In the work that I've done on myself around limiting beliefs, it's crazy to see how some of these beliefs were buried in my mind without me having any idea until it surfaced. Then when all of a sudden it came up, I became aware of the belief, and it felt like this massive weight lifted off my shoulders, and I felt so much lighter. It's almost as if I was finally able to drop this heavy baggage that I didn't know that I was carrying for years and years and years. So because some of these beliefs are so deeply buried within us, just shining a light on them can be extremely powerful, and it can actually dissolve the belief right then and there. So how can we bring limiting beliefs to the surface? These beliefs that have been buried for years. And it's by dreaming big. Often when you're writing down your big dreams and your desires and the things you want, you will find a lot of resistance from the moment you think of and write down your desires, because your mind will begin to tell you all the reasons that you can't have it, all the reasons it's not possible for you. Now, when this happens and you notice these limiting thoughts that come up, I want you to get excited. This is such a good thing because your mind is literally giving you the playbook that it's going to use to keep you small and to stop you from attaining your desire. So while you're writing down the things that you desire, also write down any negative thoughts and beliefs that come up. Some of them may dissolve just from you becoming aware of them, but likely others might need a bit more work. Once you write down the limiting thoughts that come up, you can now go through each one and see where it's coming from. Once you see where it's coming from, as in from which moment in the past it was created in your mind, you can start the real work. The real work is what I call forgiveness. You likely carry a lot of guilt, shame, anger, resentment, fear, and many other negative emotions around this experience or memory that are still trapped in your body. Forgiveness is how you can turn that painful past experience into one of your greatest powers. Forgiving everyone involved in the experience, and most importantly, forgiving yourself. Everyone is doing the best that they can with what they know at any given time. Even if you think that you could have done better in a situation, or the people involved could have done better, they couldn't have. Otherwise, they would have. You probably believe deep down that your anger and your resentment towards someone is justified and they deserve it. Maybe it is justified. Maybe they do deserve it. I don't know. But let me ask you this. Does your resentment towards them actually affect them in any way? Resentment and hatred is the same thing as if you were to drink poison and then expect it to hurt someone else. The only person suffering from your resentment and your anger is you. You don't forgive someone because they deserve it. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for you. You deserve to be free from them. Your resentment is the only thing keeping them alive in your mind and in your life. You may think your resentment is causing them to suffer and feel the pain they caused you, but in reality, it's only causing you more pain and suffering. Forgive them. Forgive yourself. Let them go. Move on. You'll feel so much lighter. Do this for each of the limiting beliefs that came up. Then you can rewrite the limiting belief in a more empowering way. Lastly, as you are taking action towards your desire, it's important to begin to separate yourself from your thoughts, to stop identifying with them as you, but rather becoming the observer of your mind. Begin to watch your thoughts as if they're just clouds in the sky, right? Completely unattached to the contents of your mind that are passing by. By noticing the thoughts running through your mind without identifying with them is how you can begin to separate yourself from the mind or from the ego. Just watch as they come and go on their own accord. You can then begin to notice the stories and the narratives that you tell yourself on a daily basis as to why your goal or your desire is not possible for you. Just notice these stories. Don't react. Don't become emotionally attached, and then write down the ones that you notice the most often and begin doing the work on them like we just spoke of. Becoming the observer of your mind rather than the experiencer is such a powerful method to begin to transcend the ego and to stay present. Thoughts come and go on their own accord. They only stick around if you become emotionally triggered and attached to them, or you believe them to be you, which they're not. They are your ego. You are the ever-present awareness that is witnessing them and is untouched by them. We will be talking about this so much more in the future. So that wraps up step number 4, and that's where we're going to call it for today. But before we end it, I want to do a quick recap of each step. So step number 1, you got clear on what it is you actually want and how to view your desire with non-attachment. In step 2, you learn how to embody the energy of someone who already has your desire. In step 3, we covered how to focus on the process, not the results, and how to stop resisting and step into flow. And in step 4, we learn how to overcome and let go of limiting beliefs. Now, just these 4 steps are extremely powerful and can dramatically change your life. But there's a reason why the Way of Flow has 7 steps. The first 4 are not going to be enough to keep you from slipping back into resistance, attachment, and struggle. So in part 2, we go even deeper so that you can see the full picture. We'll talk about how to completely accept your present reality, no matter how much you think it sucks, how to surrender all your actions and outcomes, and lastly, how to step into true flow, where all resistance fades away and you become one with life. So to make sure that you don't miss it, give the show a follow. That way you'll be notified whenever a new episode is out. In the meantime, take some time to reflect on steps 1 through 4. Download the free PDF in the show notes. That way it makes you following the steps so much easier. I have the questions for each step right there. Take out your journal, write down the questions, answer them. Take some time, all right? These questions are powerful, and the insights you'll gain from them can change your life. If you have any questions, comments, or insights and you want to share with me, please DM me on Instagram. My handle is @theworkwithryan, or send me an email to @theworkwithryan@outlook.com. I love hearing from you guys. And lastly, if you love the show and it's helped you a lot, please leave a 5-star review. It really goes a long way in helping others come across the show. All the best, my friends. Please don't forget to download the free PDF. I can't say this enough. It'll help you so much. I'll see you in the next episode, The Way of Flow, Part 2.